I suffered major injuries as well. Surgeon said you'd never play again without pain or restriction. We just said there must be a way to naturally recover from this, like surely. We basically identified all these raw ingredients. My father turned them into this golden elixir, and I used this blend for 6 weeks, and within 6 weeks I was completely pain-free. From that point on, I was basically able to go on and have a career in professional football pain-free, and I used it as my secret weapon. That led to, the Turmeric Co being born as a actual concept and blend.
What do you think is bullshit in this industry?
I would say the majority of juices and products and supplements are bullshit. Major bullshit.
This week, we revisit our chat with Thomas Robson Kanu, who pivoted from a top-level international Premier League football career into entrepreneurship by setting up his family business, the Turmeric Company, based on a formula that he and his father developed to aid his recovery from a career-ending injury, or apparently so. Thomas is now taking the same drive that fueled his football career into business. We talk about why so many superficially healthy drinks on shop shelves contain so little nutrition and so much sugar that you might as well have a Coke and enjoy it. Why it's so difficult to get natural remedies into the mainstream. It's to do with the money, if you didn't know. And why messing up every day is the route to success. It's a great chat, especially when you hear the drive and ambition for the Turmeric Company to emulate the global success of health drinks from a previous century. And yes, we are talking about Coca Cola. Check it out.
Hello and welcome to Business Without Bullshit. I'm Philippa Sturt, and alongside me is my co-host Andy Uri.
Hello.
Hi, Andy. And we're joined by Thomas Robson Kanu, founder and CEO of the award-winning Turmeric Company. Previously a Premier League and international footballer, he founded the Turmeric Company in 2018 after finding his homemade turmeric blend invaluable in supporting his recovery from injury and the physical demands of training. The Turmeric Company has won numerous awards, is utilised by the likes of Everton FC, Brentford FC and Sale Sharks Rugby Club, and is one of the UK's fastest growing health brands. Thomas, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, both of you.
Thomas, this is fabulous. So, we'd like to start with a simple question. What is keeping you up at night?
What is keeping me up at night, apart from my children?
How old are the kids?
They are 8, 5 and 4.
Okay, that's going to keep you awake.
Exactly. So apart from the children, not a lot. I think I will try and read as much as possible in the evenings. Good to relax.
You're a big
the
reader,
mind.
are you?
I like to... Yeah, I like information to a degree.
So non-fiction. You're Wikipedia.
So I'm not geeking out on fiction, unfortunately.
Wikipedia rabbit holes?
No Wikipedia rabbit holes. No Twitter rabbit holes for me. But no, I think there's a lot of self-development that we can do. So I try and do that in the form of books. A lot of what I've learned in business has been sort of formed from various different sources in literature.
I'm embarrassed by my evening habits at this point.
Yeah.
Walk through the door, put on my pajamas. If I'm lucky, get straight into bed.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Watch telly for a couple of hours, go to sleep.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's great. In terms of sort of you will always read about self-improvement and is you more drawn towards sort of business, or is this more, a personal thing to sort of, improve yourself?
I think they're kind of, well, I don't know if that's wrongly or rightly, but intertwined, because, you want to improve yourself and you want to improve everything that you're doing. And for me, I'm in business now. So, it plays a fundamental
People
part
don't all want to improve everything they're doing. You've got this drive, obviously. Is that based on sports or something? Or
possibly, yeah. I think sport probably has a fundamental element. But I think when you're competing in sport, you're competing from a very young age. Yeah. So
when did you start?
I started at 10. So I signed for Arsenal as a 10-year-old, so you're thrust into this academy system where everything is, ultimately about being as good as you possibly can be and being
How does that happen? You just at your local club or something playing football and a scout comes?
Essentially, that's exactly what happens. But a lot of people will talk and, what happened was I was performing really well, and other coaches and other people, kids were talking about my performance as a 10-year-old. Obviously 7, 8, 9, 10, you have to do it consistently. And then was scouted by Arsenal. But for me it was like it was just quite unique, because then you do certain days you'll leave school early. A lot of the time you'd get picked up, and then you'd be sort of. Were you escorted.
Living in London at the time?
I was living the opposite side of London. It would take me about an hour to get to training. So, but yeah, I think you arrive and then you have new football boots every 2 weeks. You play on, this immaculate pitch and turf, and
football boots every 2 weeks.
Yeah, because your feet are growing and changing, and it's all about being your best. And I think it is quite fascinating. And I think that understanding that. You have to be your best, you have to turn up, and then going into elite sport, it's not about, okay, participation, hey guys, let's just participate today. Jobs are on the line if you win and lose, and it's obviously amplified to a degree because of the attention on sport. So yeah, I think a lot of sports men and women are, highly driven. Yeah, there's a lot of sacrifice, and I think again it teaches you that, ultimately it's about discipline is used in various different ways, but I think it's more just about really understanding what you want in your life, and then just being willing to apply yourself to that.
Yeah, but at 10, that's quite a hard thing.
And also, my neighbour's son was signed to Tottenham. He went all the way, then he got injured when he was like 19, 20, got a major injury, and that was it, and you've sacrificed so much, to get to that point. Would you tell your kids to do it out of interest?
No, to be honest, I say whatever my kids want to do, I'll let them do and support
them. But if they
them.
suddenly were like getting signed and stuff, you'd be great.
Yeah, I'd say, okay, well, look, if you want to compete at a top level, like there's going to be things that you're going to have to do, which 99.9% of the people who are currently doing what you're doing will not be able to do, because the levels of discipline, focus, sacrifice, desire, a lot of the time. And I think this is typical in all walks of life fundamentally. Like if you want to achieve something, it's simply about the willingness to persevere. So if you just are relentless, you get a setback and you persevere, you get disappointment, you persevere, you continue. A lot of the people who eventually achieve something are just those who just basically never gave up and were able to persevere longer than that competitor.
And cope with the knockbacks, I suppose.
Yeah, precisely. So it's all fascinating. And I suffered major injuries as well as a 15-year-old.
Which is what led to this, is it?
Yeah. And that led to, the Turmeric Co being born as a actual concept and blend. I experienced 2 major surgeries as a 15-year-old. Didn't play for 2.5 years. Surgeon said you'd never play again without pain or restriction. Should probably begin looking at different career paths. And I was just determined to become a professional footballer. So I persevered, came back through the rehabilitation, and then I'd go for a jog and my knee would balloon, like literally swelling, inflammation.
And that was the injury when you were 15, a knee injury.
15, yeah. So
and the knee's complicated.
Yeah, well, it's if you rupture the main ligament in your knee, it's the knee it's the ligament that stops
ACT,
your knee.
Is it, or the
ACL, anterior cruciate ligament. So it's the knee that basically gives stability of the knee. If you don't have an anterior cruciate ligament, your knee will basically shift all over the place.
But that's massive. I mean, you're 15. My God, you must have been determined to do it. And then, it's that story is quite common, the sort of story, you won't walk again, and then there's always those counter stories of like, well, that depends how much you want it. There's a lovely one about someone who, his wife had like this enormous stroke and lost like so much of her memory, and they said you never rebuild it. And the husband it took him 10 years. He put labels on everything in the house, and he just loved her too much and just wouldn't give up. And she's back to normal. And they said it would never. And basically they're saying it would never happen. But what they failed to say, unless you're willing to give 10 years of your life working every minute there is to rebuild this person's knowledge, So 15, so you didn't play for 2.5 years. That's major in itself, is it? They let you back in anyway once you get fit again, did they?
Yeah, touch and go. Obviously, I got back playing and training again, but I was just hampered with pain and inflammation. So, it'd take me 15 minutes in the morning to sort of be able to get out of bed to get the range and flexion in my knee. So at the time, the doctors and physios at the club prescribed me anti-inflammatories, so painkillers, diclofenac, ibuprofen, and my body had a complete adverse reaction to them. So it started passing blood in my urine, had severe nausea, so really like traumatic stuff to go through as a teenager after having gone through, what was already a traumatic period. And it was at that point where, I just broke down, and my father and I, my father was with me at the time. I'd tried to play a game, couldn't play, got home, tried to walk up the stairs and literally broke down on the stairs because I couldn't physically get up them without the pain. We just said there must be a way to naturally recover from this. Like, surely, there must be a way out there. If there's drugs, if there's painkillers, surely something natural can work. So we basically went on a research binge and, went to the public library, began looking at various different parts of the world and how they would, treat pain and inflammation with natural remedies, and we began identifying these basically, relatively readily accessible natural ingredients, which all purported to anecdotally reduce pain or inflammation in some form or another. And they were things like watermelon, pomegranate, pineapple, ginger, and subsequently turmeric. But it was about having it obviously consistently over time.
Hence, this is made of watermelon, pineapple.
Correct.
It's not just turmeric,
Exactly.
but turmeric sort of, I don't know whether there was a study, is it more recent, but it's been known for quite a long time that turmeric, particularly with the gut, seems to have these anti-inflammatory.
Do we know what the active ingredient in turmeric is?
Yeah, so, in terms of turmeric as a root, the researched active compound is a curcuminoid called curcumin. However, there are hundreds of different curcuminoids within raw turmeric root. And so it's quite fascinating because, I think the first clinical study on turmeric was only done a few decades ago. Yeah, and when you look at published, so.
But we're terrible at investigating natural ingredients because as my wife as a doctor would say, you need a double-blind study. Well, to get double-blind studies cost millions and millions of pounds, and no one's going to do that on something that's just available everywhere. I mean, it's a problem in cancer. It's a problem everywhere that there's no loop, to go and investigate, all these natural ingredients and really, Jamaican medicine and a lot of countries' medicine is incredibly natural and they purport some amazing results. But yeah, without a double-blind study, Western medicine doctor can't recommend something. So it's a painful loop. So I wonder who paid 20 years ago to do it.
But speaking of this, you've done some clinical research yourself, have you?
Yeah. So long story short, with that is, we basically identified all these raw ingredients. My father turned them into this golden elixir, this blend after a few weeks of trial and error. And I used this blend for 6 weeks, and within 6 weeks, I was completely pain-free. So wow. It allowed
and
me.
Orange. No.
Yes. So no. Our kitchen was orange. Okay. Yeah. So every utensil in the kitchen was orange. Every blender, we'd need a new blender every quarter. You need to invest in a new blender, and that's because it's such a fibrous root. It stains everything. So, but 6 weeks down the line, I was able to run, play, train again, all
within
pain-free.
6 weeks.
Within 6 weeks.
Just by digesting it.
That was the only, this liquid. So I was consuming it 2-3 times a day.
Because you think you'd have to put it on the knee or something,
No, so again, there's things out there around topical application, but what we were seeing was obviously consuming raw, bioavailable, so in an absorbable format. And an absorbable format is it being combined with black pepper, so we've got black pepper mix
that
in
helps.
the blend.
I saw that helps it absorb, does
as
it?
well as a fat soluble. So we use an
so
oil.
Your dad became a sort of a bit of a scientist trying to work this out.
Yeah. And
what's his normal job?
So he, studied law when he was a
well, lawyers are the best.
Yeah.
Generally.
So and then obviously, went on to become a civil servant. And I think from our perspective, it was, a lot of the time you say innovation is born from necessity. And that was, without that, there was no way I was going to recover from the experiences that I had. And like you said, there's a story every single week of a young professional athlete who has to stop playing because of an anterior ruptured cruciate knee ligament. It's very common. And so to have that done twice and then to come back and be crippled with pain.
Both injuries were the same, right?
Both injuries were the same. To be crippled with inflammation, to then have, prescribed anti-inflammatories, etc. It's quite a fascinating period. So anyway, from that point on, I was basically able to go on and have a career in professional football pain-free.
And play for your country.
And played for Wales internationally. My grandmother was Welsh, so I was able to represent them, nearly 50 times. And obviously realise my dream of playing in the Premier League. And so I also began realising that I was, recovering generally quicker than my teammates. I was then...
Because you never stopped taking it. Because
it was my... Yeah, I sort of became not reliant because it's natural, but I was very conscious of the impact it was having, So I then began realizing, as I said, it was having additional benefits. So into winter season now, into flu season, everyone around us is, run down with flu. Like I wouldn't get sick, So I was very conscious that then all of a sudden this blend was having additional benefits to my health. So again, long story short, we decided in 2016, a decade later, to bring this product to market because we realized that there were a lot of products on the market in the functional beverage space which were full of apple juice, full of orange juice,
which is acidic.
I feel like we should actually get to try some of this.
Yeah, sorry. So I was getting there.
Also, I have to ask, did you have to sing the Welsh national anthem?
Of course. Yeah, of course. I learnt it in camp with my teammates, which was really, really...
How much do you drink a day then?
So again, we launched the all fresh, all raw. We launched the dosing bottle in Sainsbury's. Yeah, please. Yeah, that'd be great. It's been a long day. For us...
Salud.
Cheers, guys. Enjoy.
Cheers.
It's a nice drink because ginger's
I've got
always
a sore
nice.
throat, and it's really nice on a sore throat. Actually,
and it's actually we class it it's actually classed as a food beverage, not a drink. Yeah. So it's a food beverage because we're processing raw material. It's a way of consuming, high quality, functional, natural ingredients.
What happens when you blend? I was always sort of told that, there's a problem once you get, raw things are great, but once you put them in a blender and wait a week, they lose a lot of their power.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the way. So we're crushing. So our processing is very unique. And we basically, in order to bring this to market, we had to become a manufacturer ourselves because no manufacturers in the UK or Europe would manufacture this for us. Wow. So we actually had to set up, invest in our own manufacturing facility, understand how to scale manufacture and deliver the same high quality raw product that I was having at scale and in volume. And we did it. It took us 2 years from 2016 and we launched the business in 2018. And
my God, becoming a manufacturer is a nightmare. I mean, even working with a manufacturer is a nightmare.
Correct.
So you literally,
Correct.
I mean, I guess you'd had a successful career. So did you borrow money or you had resources or raise money? Because you had
all
to
self-funded. Yeah, all self-funded.
You leased the building and with your old man?
Yeah, with my dad, and it was all set up. It was on our property, set up the facility, flattened a few garages. So for us, we realized that actually there was a massive opportunity to begin servicing consumers with an actual product which made a difference, a positive impact. And we did it. It took 2 years.
So the secret is rather than when you blend it, you break up the cells too much or something, you crush it or something, or how do you keep it,
processing. It's it's the way we process the raw material. It's very unique. And then the final blend of how we put it in, no one in the world does that like us. And that's why we're having the impact that we're having. From 2018 when we launched in the beginning.
And you were still playing football at that point?
Yeah, I was still playing football. It was quite fun, to be honest. Like during the day, I'd be an elite footballer, and in the afternoons and evenings, I'd be
covered in orange.
Covered in orange, yeah. Thankfully, I didn't have to spend too much time in a manufacturing site, although I have spent time on our filling and capping line.
Manufacturing's difficult. I mean, I'd say that
food
with some knowledge.
Insane.
Yeah, I mean, and food maybe especially, but I mean, any type of manufacturing is really hard.
The conversation we've had with a lot of founders is that when they first start out, is particularly hard because they don't want to be doing the volumes that the manufacturers want them to be doing in order to make it worth their while to make the stuff.
Yeah. Well, when we launched,
is really hard.
When we launched, each shot was £3.99. of our 60 milliliter we had to sell it at £3.99.
So make any money at all.
To make, and literally, and that was, that was a base margin. We weren't.
Well,
it was
yeah, I know people
ridiculous.
think that sounds a lot, but you got to first take VAT out of it, and then the margin of the retail is going to be insane, like 60%, or I mean, it could be 50. But
well, for us, like it was very intense because the raw. Everything was the highest quality, but we weren't producing in volume.
Where does turmeric come from?
So it's seasonal. We get it from different parts of the world over the course of a year. But there's big differences, and I don't want to, slag countries off. But Peru is a fantastic place to get your, Yeah, Peru is, fantastic. Parts of Africa are very good.
Peru clearly has a thing about orange because, marmalade sandwiches. It's a total Peru thing.
Is it?
Yeah, Paddington. Comes from darkest Peru. Eats marmalade sandwiches.
That is a quick connection you've made there.
Thinking of orange.
Is altitude important? Because Peru's got a lot of mountains.
I think there is something to do in terms of, I think it's more to do with the equator.
Okay, so it's that sort of line around.
Yes,
because you've done that thing where you've taken lots of different ingredients that all should have an effect. You made this thing. I mean, your dad must have been over the moon after 6 weeks. It's like Willy Wonka's discovered chocolate or something. It's like it's worked. It's worked for my son. Yeah. But also, you're at that thing that. Do we know which of the ingredients is really making the this is almost identical to what he made all that time ago.
Yeah, okay. Correct.
So it could be it's likely that some things are a bigger impact than others.
It's the blend. And obviously we know turmeric is a hero ingredient, definitely. And the research behind turmeric as a natural ingredient supporting a wide array of various different health ailments. There are thousands of clinical studies currently on turmeric as a health benefit. So for us, the biggest thing was realizing that this product was beginning to have a positive impact on people's lives when we launched. We then were receiving customer testimonials within 4 weeks of launching. And I don't mean this product tastes great. No, I had arthritis in my fingers.
Well, I was about to say arthritis is probably the classic because arthritis is a natural body's inflammation reaction.
Correct, exactly.
And many people would say they would say it's not a disease. It's it's the body's reaction to things. So for arthritis, it must be fantastic. Then.
Yeah, phenomenal. And everything again, anything to do with inflammation. A lot of the ailments we experience are simply due to inflammation.
Well, that's almost the modern point of view, isn't it? It's like it's all inflammation. So much of what the problem is inflammation. I mean, do you feel you must do after this experience that we have really lost touch with nature on a medical level?
Completely. I think obviously there are important benefits to the medicinal industry, like healthcare as a establishment, as an industry, and medicine aligned with that. So there have been great strides taken which have improved the health of society. However, the reliance on medicine, pharmaceutical drugs is now to a point where it's beginning to have a negative impact because it's all about, rather than looking at the problem itself and looking at preventative measures, which are typically lifestyle, nutrition, environment, you're then looking at how you can then treat. So rather than preventative healthcare, you're looking at treatment-based healthcare. Yeah. And so treatment-based healthcare is, whether you want to call it monopolized, whether you want to call it an industry in itself.
They look at the problem. They look at the knee and say, "How do we fix the knee?" And we get out a spanner. It's like the Western medicine is always trying to treat the pain. They say, "Oh, I had it with." It's like, "Oh, you've got problems with your stomach, therefore we'll put you on proton pump inhibitors." It's like, well, actually, maybe I should take less painkillers and drink less alcohol or whatever it is. I mean, you also with natural, it's like you say, "Oh, natural drugs don't do anything." Well, the poppy provides all of the painkiller, except there's one other painkiller we use, cocaine, as a local natural. It's the most effective local anesthetic, and it's still used, Novocaine. And then, it's sort of like actually at the core of medicine, if you look at the most used drugs, they're almost all natural. Aspirin is natural, So to me, that's what sort of, it's not a criticism of Western medicine in like, it does amazing things. Yes, it probably has ended up with a bit more of a treatment focus, but you look at the history of it, and there was this sort of golden period when we were suddenly like, oh, we can fix anything. And I was just in the States, and it's just incredible how they have a drug for everything. Getting back, yours is a great story, and you have the wherewithal, the funds and the determination, and clearly the calm and persistence to say, no, I'm going to do this. But I don't know how much you've got doctors on board, how much you say to a doctor, look at this, they will, I know what they say, where's the clinical study? And maybe that's what you're producing, is it?
You've done a clinical study recently, right? That you're launching a campaign about this month.
But we've not done it. It's been done independently. But the biggest thing for us was, how do we build data around what anecdotally our customers are experiencing? So we've had over 10,000 like life-changing customer testimonials of people who have used the product over a period of time, and their ailment has reduced. Their life has improved because they've begun using our turmeric-based shots. And so we were like, this is quite strange. That we're not a medicine; it's a food, right? And so the famous Hippocrates quote was, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Like, what you put into your body actually dictates the health that you experience,
Right.
Yeah. So, I think it's getting back to like source and saying like, actually, what can you do from a nutritional perspective to improve your health? And obviously our blend and our turmeric-based shot range is one of the solutions to a lot of people's issues from a health perspective. And so we were like, okay, we don't want to be a medicine because we're a food. We're clear on that. But how can we actually build information around what our customers are experiencing? So we began looking at a research, partner and saying like, okay, well, can we partner with a university to run a clinical study on the product range?
Yeah.
And its impact?
Who did you partner with?
So we partnered with Nottingham Trent University, who are very forward thinking, and are also aware that, a lot of nutrition can have an impact on specific markers in the body. Okay. And so we were then in a fortunate position where thousands of athletes use our product on a daily basis now. Okay. And actually those athletes aren't our core market. Our core market is, middle-aged individuals who are looking to improve their health naturally. Okay. So, however, obviously athletes are very aware of the fine margins of health. So a lot of them are using the product consistently. And we work with over 100 nutritionalists who are also aware that nutrition plays a significant impact in terms of health, performance, wellness. So we were able to leverage one of our elite sports partnerships with one of the professional football clubs that we partner with and we supply. And we were able to facilitate this study, which Nottingham Trent University ran. And they basically ran a clinical study on 18 elite sports athletes and tracked the inflammation blood markers, as well as the subjective muscle soreness, lower body and whole body.
While they were training, obviously.
While they were playing in elite. So it's like in itself, it's like
because
a ground
they're playing at an extreme level.
Yeah. And it's in itself, when you look at a cohort of, individuals who have been studied, that in itself, doing that on an elite group of sports athletes in season is groundbreaking in itself, let alone the findings of the study. And, the findings of the study showed essentially a significant reduction in inflammation blood markers when using our product range versus not, as well as a significant reduction in both muscle soreness, lower leg and whole body.
Are they on very healthy diets anyway, or elite sportsmen eating a McDonald's like normal
So the
people?
thing is, so you would compare, okay, it's elite. So, how does that correlate with the everyday person, right? But actually, from an elite athlete's perspective, okay, they're going to be super healthy, but actually they're also putting their bodies through extreme inflammation all of the time because they're constantly pushing it. So it's a study where actually every single person is experiencing inflammation.
Yeah, and I was just thinking though, is their diet similar at all, or some of them like got bad diets and good diets? Or
But if they're all professional athletes, they'll all be on specific diet.
no, that's what I'm curious. Are all professional athletes all on good diet? It's not the good old days of smoking fags and eating.
Yeah, 100%. But the thing is that when you actually then break down what's happening, okay, you're consuming nutrients and compounds, micronutrients, macronutrients in the form of these raw ingredients within the blend. Within an elite athlete, you would say, well, actually their nutrition should be relatively good. Okay. Now, when you look at the majority of, say, UK's population, like they are nutrient deficient. Like their whole diet consists of, typically ultra processed foods, foods where there's very little nutrient content, high sugar content, which we're now seeing actually is a massive factor in creating and causing inflammation. So you could say, actually, if you were to look at that study on elite athletes, the impact that the product range had on them, you could actually argue that it would be significantly more amplified in the everyday person, adding a shot to their consistent everyday routine. And ultimately, that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Well, that's almost what I was curious about. It's like if you've got a bad diet, is it enough to help counter, or is the bad diet just like going to just overwhelm whatever sort of, it's like when you have a salad after a burger to try and cheer yourself up. It's just sort of, does it make a difference or not? And I mean, the other thing is how, which I think is always so fascinating, is how different all our chemistry is. We all got different blood types. We all react differently. I mean, I remember watching this amazing study when they made people eat 5,000 calories a day, and obviously almost everyone got fat. But this one Asian guy, this Chinese guy, he just put on muscle, and he just got more and more muscular, and they were just pumping him full of, he wasn't exercising, and it was like, oh my God, and they were trying to work it out. It's like, oh, he's got a sort of predetermined genetics that basically he's always skinny. You get this sort of very slim Chinese who are always so slim. I wonder, I mean, within the study you did you notice everyone was taking the same out? Was some people hugely different? Were there any people who it didn't have an effect? Was it consistent through every single?
Consistent through everyone.
I mean, it's a small study still, but that's very encouraging.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, it was a pilot study in itself to line up for future studies. And we've just had the results back from our second clinical study too, and that focused more on the immunotherapy side of the product, and
it helps your immune system as well.
Correct.
Anecdotally, what people didn't get sick in the summer, and what so I probably should say the Rastas. I just have quite a lot of friends in that world, and my sister's very sick this year. Sadly died, but we brought in all the Rastafarian medicine, and I work with her. That it's similar. It's these sort of similar ingredients. And what happens when you get a cold? People get ginger, don't they? You get these sort of things, and like you say, you feel it on your throat. I mean, there's something actually quite obvious about it too. It's like the way your body responds to it, and there's a sort of certain power to things like ginger. So obviously, okay. So the second question is, can it make people's immune system stronger? Basically.
Well, can it? Yeah, exactly.
And do you know the answer?
Well, we've got data now supporting that, in terms of the impact of sick days due to respiratory symptoms versus obviously when using the range versus not is again significantly reduced.
I think he's saying yes, it can.
Yes. Well, there's the graph of cancer. They've just been releasing this in the press. It was only a few weeks ago and stuff. But from the 1950s, cancer's just gone like that. And they say, well, why does it suddenly go up there? And they say, well, in the 1950s, that's when we started eating processed food. That's when, fast food started. There's where all these different things started. And then it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. But it's an epidemic, And I think, obviously cancer is one marker. But again, it's pointing to that returning to when we used to cook everything. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, what an amazing story. I mean, from start to scratch. I think the bit that I really love is your dad and you going, obviously, when you say a breakdown, it's like, it was so important to you at the time, and it was so heartbreaking to you to have a physical ailment and that was holding you back from doing your dream, you know, but you can convert that in a different way. As, you know, you see people with disabilities, people who can't walk or, you know, can't do basic stuff, and the frustration that happens. I mean, you know, one of my best friends just messed his back up, you know, and, you know, he's been in bed now for 2 weeks, can't do anything. And it's like the agony of those sort of experiences, as it were, you know.
Yeah, no, I think from my perspective, you know, sort of looking in at what we've done, you know, we've produced, you know, millions of these shots now since launching, you know, tens of millions. And the biggest thing that we're seeing within our customer base and within, you know, the society is we're seeing, you know, our communities come together around natural nutrition and the actual positive impact it can have, is that the realization that, you know, your health is truly your most valuable asset. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, particularly within, you know, the consumer-driven material world that we live in, you know, that's only realized truly once it's too late, i.e. once it's gone, you know. And so again, that saying, you know, your health is your wealth, it's so true. And I think for us, what we are beginning to see is a realization of that fact in society, particularly through our customer base.
Over the last, you know, 10 years.
It's a serious, you know, it is a serious business. Like, people are genuinely taking positive life choices seriously, you know. So they're like saying, again, around processed foods, sugar industry, you know, juices. You know, you look at the majority of juices in the industry are pumped full of sugar and are processed to the point where the nutrient content of those juices is zero. And it's basically sugar and water. You know, there's juices on shelf by big brands, popular brands, where when you consume that juice, you may as well have just had a Coca Cola and enjoyed it, you know, known that, you know, you're having something, you know, just enjoy it. Don't try and have
part of it is that orange juice is very stable. Like I worked with a watermelon juice company years ago, and the problem with watermelon juice, it goes off really quickly. You know, maybe as a blend, you know, now you flash pasteurize or whatever, but they had a watermelon product and I got addicted to it, but it only lasted 90 days. And that took them a long time to work out how to do that. But orange juice and apple juice, you mentioned, but particularly orange, is a very stable juice, as it were. But this is what I've learned long ago. Almost all of those health drinks, almost all of those smoothies and blends and everything, it's all bullshit. All the nutrition is long gone, and especially them sitting in the sun. I mean, at least Purdy's tries to put theirs in a sort of, you know, darkened bottle, as it were, in glass. Secondly, they shouldn't be in plastic. I mean, are there any of those, you know, because they've got the cold press. I also read recently cold press might be bullshit, but, you know, you just feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, so I think it's, you know, understanding the mechanisms behind processing, you know, so you can't pasteurize, you can't heat treat watermelon, you know, you shouldn't really heat treat any drink, but when you heat treat it, i.e. pasteurize it, you're depleting the nutritional value.
You put the top on, you heat it up.
Heat it, yeah.
So you kill everything, and then it's cool.
And then it's cool. And the reason why you're doing that is for shelf stability. Yeah. So what you're doing there is you're extending a product's life from 5 days to potentially like 5 years.
Yeah. It's the same theory of the guy who invented the can, you know, the canned food. They suddenly worked out if you put it, if you seal a can and you stick it in boiling water, that it would last for ages.
Precisely,
you know?
yeah.
And nutrition is less from cans, and you can get poisoning from cans. But it was still a revelation, you know, it fueled Napoleon's army and all of that. Yeah. What's your shelf life then?
So the shelf life, so we HPP, so it's high pressure processing. So basically each one of our shots goes under X cubic pressure of water.
That creates heat though.
No, completely cold. So it basically pressurizes, it reduces the log count of the microbes within the product. So what that allows to do is, rather than, and a microbe basically causes mold, causes degradation, causes obviously the decay of the product. So you reduce them to a minimum, and then you then keep it cold throughout its shelf life. And what you allow for it to then do is achieve a shelf life. For us, we achieve up to 6 to 7 weeks chilled shelf life on our product now because of that process. And that's a non-invasive process. And that's how we're able to lock in the nutrient content and keep that product as fresh as possible, but while competing with the Coca Colas and the PepsiCos who deliver these juices which can stay on shelf for 2.5 years. Okay, well, you're never going to compete with the big boys if you've got a shelf life of 5 days, so it's the perfect medium for us.
Yeah, you've got to get past 5 days. I mean, you're at a point where it's just about possible. By the time you make it, get it on the shelf.
Very complex, very, our
was that one of the most hard things, was it?
Massive, yeah, massive in terms of, supply, demand, forecasting and planning is like a constant battle, particularly with raw, fresh ingredients, so it's all of the work that has gone into delivering.
Have you ended up raising money?
So for us as a business, we've been fully self-funded. What we did a strategic investment round recently where we brought true strategic investors into the business. And so, that's allowed us to get industry knowledge and industry expertise, but also true business knowledge, true business expertise to the table. And for us, that was an important step because, again, obviously as a family-run business, like how do you compete with the big boys? And for us, our vision for this business and brand is to become our generation's Coca Cola.
So that's the long-term goal of the business.
Correct.
Because their Coca Cola was a health drink, and actually, to be honest, I still would knock it occasionally. Do you know what I mean? It's not bad on a hangover.
And Coca Cola has its look. Coca Cola is all about fun. Everyone remembers the adverts, whether it was a Christmas advert or a summer advert. This was all like deep. This was deep, subliminal, like psychological, not warfare, but they knew what they were doing, okay? So they were programming, okay? And they were able to program a generation towards happiness in consumption. Now, what if a brand and a product was able to do that towards health and actually deliver on that? And so for us, we genuinely feel we have a unique opportunity to do that with the Turmeric Co, because fundamentally, Turmeric Co has been used for millennia. This isn't a flash in the pan product ingredient that comes and goes. Like, no, this was being used long before any of us came, and it will be used long after we're gone as well. So we're very conscious that if we can continue to deliver the quality of the product that we're delivering, we will continue to impact more and more people and allow for a positive shift in society towards health.
It's an absolutely fantastic story. Have there been any fuck-ups along the way, or has it been a perfect ride of everything going exactly right?
Yeah, we fuck up every day. Like, that's part of the process. But it's about how you react to that, So every single day there's a challenge, there's an issue, but actually a lot of the time, those challenges and issues are opportunities. And if you can approach them in that way, it's a mechanism for improvement, development, and there's a lot of areas. Again, we're into manufacturing, and so there's lots of different modes and models of manufacture. And when you look at, for example, lean manufacturing, Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma, it's like,
what is Lean Six Sigma?
So Lean Six Sigma is all about how you can continually improve. Continuous improvement, and through that you allow.
That sounds like the Toyota system.
It is. Yes,
okay.
Correct. Exactly. Okay. Yeah, very, very aligned. So all of very similar methodology, and so
it's very sports too, isn't it? It's sort of the ministry of micro adjustments.
Yeah, exactly. So when you look at that, for us, it taking that approach towards what we've done has really allowed us to, as I said, deliver something no other brand and no other business is doing at this moment in time. When you look at all of the brands who are on shelf today, none of them are manufacturers, and the majority of their products.
No, it's amazing to hear you manufacture yourselves, sort of thing. That's amazing.
But the majority of their products are actually manufactured. Like, you've got two different brands. They're both made from the same manufacturer.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's mind-blowing stuff when you actually realize, and actually when you see it, we've been to factories.
Well, all pairs of glasses come from the same place, pretty much, Luxottica.
I mean,
and when you find that out, you're like, what, all of them? And it's like, well, it's pretty much,
Precisely.
And you go to the factory and they all produce it, and it's the tennis shoes, and, try and buy sports shoes that aren't made in China. It's like, it's all made in the same factories. Are you just in the UK at the moment? moment? Are you going to do Germany? Would be the obvious, wouldn't it? With their health mad.
Yeah. We're just in the UK. We've just, obviously, we've forayed now into retail. We launched into Sainsbury's recently, and within 2 weeks of launching, we were the highest selling new product listed that they'd listed.
Great.
So it shows the awareness is really growing, and people are looking for a benefit. And as I said, online we've serviced over 100,000 customers, right? So we've got a big database of customers who are making, as I said, those conscious positive decisions towards health. And so with that, we did a lot of research. We spoke to a lot of our customers, and we have got big data sets which show that consumers are not only waking up around nutrition and health and the importance of it, but when looking within this category, they're truly only purchasing products for one of 4 reasons. And so for us, if a product isn't servicing one of those 4 reasons of purchase or reason for purchase, you're basically like losing the opportunity to make a difference to that person's life. So you're going to have higher rates of churn, you're going to have higher rates of dissatisfaction. And ultimately, when you look at the category generally, unfortunately, the majority of products in this category don't service those core needs.
What are the 4 needs? This is for drinks, is it?
No, for functional beverages. So the 4 key reasons of purchase within the functional beverage category. First one, biggest one, is pain relief.
Is it really?
Yeah.
What are they drinking for
What's your competitor?
other than you?
Yeah, but there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of reasons of ginger. There's a lot of benefits around, even there's so many functional beverages out there. So people are looking within this category for purchasing for benefits. So pain relief, immunity support. So again, immunity support, not getting sick. I want to lead a normal life without having to get run down.
There's so many saying, oh, this has got vitamin C in it, which supports your immune system. It's like...
Yeah, exactly. But, it's fortified with vitamin C. And actually the vitamin C isn't, again, in an absorbable format in the majority of the products. Third one is energy, what you listed. And then the 4th one is performance. And performance could be your weekend warrior. It could be walking the dog. It could be literally like, it's not about elite performance. It's about those people who want to perform in their life. So those are the 4 reasons for purchase within the functional beverage / food category.
You said number 1 is the most important.
Number 1 is the pain relief, yeah.
I would have thought energy is still, because people sort of still in the world. I mean, I think it's amazing how the world's changed. Being 45, my generation, to be a man, nothing about being strong or fit. It was just about mental strength and how fucked up you could get, really. It's a sort of, and how it's shifted now, young people in the firm, it's nutrition. I'm picking men because it's almost more stark to me, that I think women are always a little more conscious, if I can make that sexist judgment. And men just seem so much more like health, gym, and we get the manual out, don't we? We like to be very sort of like, nutrition and value. You obviously ran a very effective social media campaign. It's all about social media now. And it's so nice to hear the story direct and the amazing impact that's happened on you doing the manufacturing yourself, the thought that's gone into that. But all that stuff we're talking about, how it's all in a fucking blend and it doesn't work anymore. I remember thinking to myself, I bet it's all bullshit. I bet if I really wanted to use turmeric, I better go and get some turmeric and do it fresh every day, if that's what and I'm not going to do that sort of thing. So, but I mean, I don't know whether you want to respond to that at all, because do you think, you still... social media is just such a strange place. But so you obviously ran a huge social media campaign. That's where you got your 100,000 subscribers from, was it?
Yeah, so to be honest, there's a lot of organic growth that we've experienced of, people,
Presumably
word of mouth.
part of it was that you were, a Premier footballer.
To be honest, like you're saying, like there's a lot of really bad products out there. And, we've only been able to run a successful business because the product actually works.
But that's the second bit that's tricky. It's that I used it for months and it's like, am I feeling better?
Yeah,
It's like, look, I have periods where I drink too much. I have periods where I'm better. I have times when I'm very stressed. we go up and down. So I remember saying to myself, well, I mean, if you've got something very specific, like a physical injury that's suddenly like alleviated, but
I would say, I would argue to you is like, what was your reason for consumption?
Well, gut pain, stomach. So I should see whether that's it. But also when you start being good, you tend to do multiple things, which doesn't help.
But also in that, like a lot of the time, I think being conscious of your body is really important, and a lot of people genuinely aren't conscious of their body. And like you said, if you move the metrics and the dials, less fast food, less alcohol, more salads, a turmeric shot, blah, blah, blah. And if you're doing that constantly all of the time, which I feel like that's how you would be living your life,
fair,
you're then the handle in barometer and, the metrics that you're running, well, you never know. So I would argue that you 100% would have experienced a benefit from using our product for however many months that you used it.
I'm not even bullshitting you, I'm going to do it.
But my point is that you weren't conscious enough to acknowledge the impact that it had. And so obviously as an athlete, like I was hyper conscious of my body. I had to be, right? I was very aware of what would, if I had alcohol, that would have a significant degradation on my recovery, on my, immune system.
Do you drink?
Now, not so much. Yeah. So even finishing, there's the opportunity to drink a lot, but I'll have a nice glass of wine. Red wine's really good with some good quality meat, etc. Obviously, if I'm going out with friends, I'm not opposed to drinking, but actually, I'm conscious of the impact it has on me. And a lot of people become unconscious because they're so numb to that side of the life. Like it's just not really thought about.
Well, also, frankly, it's boring. I mean, my dear dog, they tell you should only feed it dry food, and eventually dogs will just eat dry food, but it's fucking boring. You can tell he prefers not to, and they'll say, well, he'll live longer. And I don't, but it's like, we'd all live longer if we all ate dry food all the time. Life's a very strange place like that. You can live healthy and the bus hits you anyway. So I think this, you obviously incredibly, in control, and you've had to professionally, you had something that you really wanted to do, and you've obviously been, for whatever reason, got fantastic discipline and things. But, I think they're difficult choices in life, aren't they? Health is everything. But you got to live, and drawing those lines, it's not easy.
But it's the convenience of it as well, So when you're looking to have, if you're looking to make change in your life, like you want to do things that aren't impacting your life in a negative way, right? So I think, again, that's one of the reasons why we are being so successful, is because it's so convenient for people. It's not really an issue. You get it delivered straight to your home.
Do you need to take it? Is it better if you take it first thing in the morning?
First thing in the morning, a lot of our customers will say that they notice a big impact for taking it first thing in the morning. But for us, it's like, even down to, you mentioned the small bottles, recycling returns initiative. Every single one of our customers can return all of their bottles free of charge, back to us with their next door. Like, it's like, so that whole convenience element, like we've really thought it out and mapped it out. And I think when it comes to nutrition, health, wellness, there are so many options out there, but fundamentally, like I said, the first thing, if you're going to try and make a positive, conscious decision in your life, like be aware, of what you're experiencing, of what you're looking to change, be aware, and then, try it. Like if it does then work for you, like then you will know if you are conscious and aware of it. If it doesn't, then you will also know.
What do you think is bullshit in this industry, in this functional drinks industry?
I would say the majority of juices and products and supplements are bullshit. Major bullshit. Yeah, like severe bullshit.
And it's amazing we don't know that. Like why is that? Why is that not? Because someone told me this a long time ago who made juices and smoothies, said it doesn't fucking work. None of them got information in them.
People making the juices and smoothies are advertising them so that you'll buy them and drink them. So they're not going to tell you that.
Yeah, but you could change the regulation easy to say it's not what you put in it, it's what's in it when you buy it. Because there is rules in some countries you've got to put in what is in when you buy it. Because sometimes you put ingredients in, I had this in cosmetics and stuff. I had some cosmetic businesses, like things happen to them. So they become other things, you know? I mean, what do you think they should do about it?
I think it's the consumer world that we live in. I think, it's very hard to regulate that. I think when you look at a lot of the big food players, they've got big monopolies, like big monopolies. And I think fundamentally, as I said, like we're in a time of change. We're in a time of, the time that we've lived in, there's never been a time like now, in terms of information exchange. As I said, the developments that are happening, the knowledge transfer that's happening all over the globe. And so I think fundamentally what we'll see is there's going to be a shift, and there's going to be people, and we're seeing it in numbers, we're seeing it in data, we're seeing it in consumer, like a lot of the juice businesses and brands, like they're in decline.
Which ones aren't bullshit then? What can I buy that's not? You'd have to name the brand.
Juices. I would genuinely say if you're looking
there's
for
this one called Turmeric
yeah, obviously,
Co.
apart from the Turmeric Co, range, like obviously, that's a very unique range, but there's not distribution of that everywhere. And so for us, like if I look at the drinks market, I think, having freshly pressed juice is important if you're going to look for a juice.
Have you come across Plenish?
Plenish, no. Is that a good one, is it? Cold press, then? Is that what?
Plenish juices are a decent juice. They're owned by Britvic, which is one of the,
I did the transaction.
Big boys. Oh, really? Okay, nice. I would say, look, so there is juices out there. Sainsbury's actually do a juice range, which is good, fresh juice range.
But when you're saying fresh juice to me, my brain's going, there's not people behind the aisles and pulling the orange juice.
Yeah, essentially,
things.
that's what you want to be looking for, as close to that as possible.
Wow, and Sainsbury's have that? What are they? Oh, I see. It's in the milk aisle almost. It's like this thing's going to last a week. We press
correct.
The juice.
Yeah. So I would say, genuinely, beyond that, just have a Coca Cola.
Enjoy it.
Because every other juice out there is highly processed, full of sugar.
If you're going to have Tropicola, it's owned by Pepsi. If you're going to have Innocent, it's owned by Coke.
Yeah. So just have a Coca Cola and enjoy it. That feeling, that emotional state that it gives you. But in terms of that emotional state, like I was fortunate, we're in big food now. I've had some interesting discussions with, some senior members within the food industry, and an ex-Coke director spoke to me about a marketing campaign, which was a generational marketing campaign to infiltrate Coca-Cola throughout Africa.
Wow.
And this was back in the early 70s. And the plan was to have a Coke bottles at the time, in the hand, consumed by every single child in Africa on a daily basis by 2000. It was a generational. And so when you talk about subliminal messaging, holidays are coming, holiday. That's not like this. You've been programmed.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and the fascinating thing is if you were actually, if someone now was to launch a brand called Coca Cola and deliver the ingredient makeup that is in a Coke, it would have to close within 12 months of operating because no one would buy it. No one. Okay. So this is the fascinating thing about consumer psychology. And so they've, as I said, for that generation, they've nailed it, but consumer patterns are changing. And that's why they've had to acquire the likes of Innocent smoothies. That's why they're acquiring.
They were very clear about why they acquired Innocent, which was they had nothing. They had Minute Maid, which wasn't a brand that matched Tropicana, and they needed an orange juice. They didn't acquire Innocent for the smoothies. They acquired it.
But as soon as that happens, the big wigs come into the business and then process.
Have you watched
the product.
Mad Men? I always find Mad Men a fascinating series because it's the one about the advertising executives in the 60s and they're all alcoholics. But I mean, frankly, they were all...
That is really good summary of exactly what it is.
And they were all in the Second World War. You suddenly realise all these people were in the front and stuff in France. That's why they're drinking like fish. But they're the ones who come up with they have loads of them in the programme about how do we sell this thing? And it's this psychological manipulation. Anyway, we'll move on. It's been really interesting, man. You got a laser focus, It's nice to see, change the world. Do it. Do it. Change my life, hopefully. So this is the 10-second quickfire round. We're going to reel off some questions, very quick, 10-second answers, DQ the music, and we're off. Let's go.
Favourite subject at school?
Math.
Ooh, what's your special skill?
My unique ability is, I'm
Pretty good at football.
pretty good at football. Yeah, I'd say I can make things happen.
You can make things happen. Yeah, the focus.
Manifester.
You're a manifester. I hate the word, but I like the concept. You know, it wants to make you punch yourself in your American face, but it's a great concept.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
A footballer.
Jesus Christ! Shall I fill this in for you? Let me fill this in for you. What did your parents want you to be?
They wanted me to be a paediatrician.
Oh, that's very specific.
Oh wow, that's the toughest form of medicine. Are your parents doctors? No.
No, but I think they realised they were. I was very caring as a child, apparently. So.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Go-to karaoke song is probably Aerosmith. I don't want to miss a thing.
Oh my goodness me!
Wow, that has changed. That's changed the spectrum.
What's the film with them where they have to knock a meteor off its
That's right.
trajectory to Earth?
Liv Tyler.
Liv Tyler and Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
What, they sing that song in that, do they?
They do.
Office dogs, business or bullshit?
Office dogs. No. I'm all for that. Not in food manufacturing.
I was supposed to say not in a
unfortunately.
manufacturing facility. Not so much.
Have you ever been fired?
Have I been fired? Well, in football, you get fired every other week. If you lose a game, you get fired basically from the team. So yeah, multiple times. Yeah.
What's your vice? Now, this one I'm going to love.
My vice. My vice. I think, as I said, as much as, I enjoy process improvements, like you said, sometimes it's just nice to, you would just want to just chill and relax and, sort of not being, you always want to be impeccable and improve, etc. But sometimes that actually is difficult to maintain at the same time. So actually acknowledging that that's my unique ability is constantly being willing to persevere, do stuff, etc. But I think it kind of annoys a lot of people because they just like me to just.
So it's a vice in itself.
So it's a vice, yeah, but not necessarily for me because I absolutely love it.
Seeking permanent perfection is a vice.
Seeking perfection. What your brother and sister must hit you over the head with their sandwiches.
Yeah, not perfection, impeccability. So perfection. When you have perfection, you can't grow anymore. So if you're perfect, when you can't grow, the only next step is to die. Yeah. So impeccability is actually giving your best in all situations.
Yeah, nice. What do your brother and sister do out of interest?
My brother works in the business, and my sister, she is a dental nurse.
No way. Okay. Are they impeccable?
I hope so. Yeah.
That's the end. That's the end of the quickfire round. You did excellently. Recommendations of things to read, watch, listen to?
A book that I read as a teenager was Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
That sounds like fiction.
No. So very much reality in terms of, it was my first foray into mind. It helps you realize that actually everything is mind. So
mindfulness, you mean, or mind? What's mind? What mind is a
mind? Yeah. Everything is mind. Consciousness. Everything is.
Do you believe that consciousness creates stuff? There's this sort of theories about consciousness is this creative thing that it's manifesting that literally can create stuff. I mean, would you go that far with it?
Of course. Yeah. Definitely.
So I'm with you.
It's all mental. Yeah,
it's all mental.
It's all mental.
As in, it's all mind.
You weren't saying that when you couldn't get up the stairs, though, would you?
You're
saying my fucking leg doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
But your dad turned it to mental. He said we can fix this.
Yeah, precisely.
Let's not just accept. I think that one of the things that I love most about that story too is it's like, don't just accept what people tell you, even if they're the experts, even if they're the finest doctor in the world. Bollocks to it. If you really, really want to do something, work it out. Yes. So do you want to just do your thing? Tell us why we should buy this amazing product.
I think from my perspective, launching the Turmeric Co has been an incredible journey. Being able to support the lives of a lot of people through natural nutrition is fundamentally our driver and why we do what we do. So the Turmeric Co can be found online. The Turmeric Co can be found in Sainsbury's. Our socials are always on at the Turmeric Co. So thank you.
Brilliant, Thomas. You've been absolutely wonderful. What a vision and what a story. So there you have it. That was this week's episode of Business Without Bullshit. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Pippa. Thank you, Dee. Thanks, Rhymes. And we'll be back with our quiz, Business or Bullshit, on Thursday. Until then, it's ciao.